Today we're going to be ranking every Daedric artifact in Oblivion, the remaster of course. The items that are qualified to be featured in this tier list are ones that are Daedric artifacts based on lore, so not just the Shrine Quest items. We're also including things like the Grey Cowl and the fucking Fork. Speaking of the fucking Fork, what a way to start a tier list. The Fork of Horripilation. It's one of the artifacts of Sheogorath, the Daedric Prince of Madness, and this fork is set to cause Horripilation. What the fuck is Horripilation? The erection of hairs on the skin due to cold, fear, or excitement. But Bebop, if it's just a fork, then why does it make your hair stand up? Well, my little greasy cheeseball, despite this artifact being a simple kitchen utensil, it's still technically a weapon, and despite it doing shit damage, it has the special effect of completely halting all magica regeneration on yourself. Fuck you. Can also be turned in for an increase to your blade, alchemy, or sneak skill. Since it's a joke item, I'm not gonna put it in F tier, and since it's Sheogorath's item, I'm gonna put it in C because he's my boy, my favorite Daedric. Azura Star. It's an infinitely reusable white soul gem, you know the shtick, and unlike in Skyrim, you cannot corrupt it to get a better version of it. Black stars matter. Enchantments in Oblivion, however, seem to run out a lot faster than they do in Skyrim, so having one of these bad boys can be pretty convenient. I'll put it in A tier for that. Not much to be said about it, it's a soul gem. Blade. The way you go about acquiring this weapon is quite interesting. You basically gotta frame a murder between two rivaling groups and cause them to kill each other, which is awesome, until only one group remains. I like that. It fits the feel of this betrayal-themed weapon quite well. It also has pretty good base damage. It absorbs 8 points of health per hit on top of that, meaning that it adds another flat 8 damage to that, which goes through armor, and it prevents spell casting, making casters useless against this thing. A tier, because the reason I'm not putting it in S is because it can be pretty easily out-damaged by some other weapons like Goldbrand, the artifact of Boethia, who is a dude in Oblivion that has a higher base damage than the Ebony Blade, but also deals a whopping 22 fire damage on top of that. And fire damage in Oblivion has a burning effect, which does some extra damage over time on top of that. So it's damage on damage on damage, and the way you get it is also awesome. You literally get sent into hell to fight in an arena against a champion of every race in the game, each with their own interesting skills and fighting styles. Goldbrand, S tier. The Staff of Sheogorath. I have a confession to make. I never actually played OG Oblivion because I was busy at that point in my life. Since at the time it came out, I was way too caught up, shitting myself and crying. I was 17, having not played this game before the remaster, and having only seen how these weapons worked once. A couple of them had me questioning if this is how the item is actually supposed to work, or if it's a bug. The Staff of Sheogorath is one of these, as when I use it, it worked as sort of a weird crowd control where you freeze enemies in place for a while, but you can't damage them while they're frozen, which is how I assumed the staff is supposed to work. But when I used it, enemies would still be frozen and not attack me, but still weirdly kind of follow me around without moving. I think the staff is pretty powerful, especially if you're playing it on higher difficulties, as you can freeze multiple enemies with it and focus on one enemy at a time when you're overwhelmed, or you could just do what I do and freeze all of them and run like hell. The downside, I think, is the staff is a temporary item and you need to turn it in to complete the main DLC storyline. I think. I don't know. I haven't played it that far yet. I tried the staff with console command. Having to turn this item in would drop it down to B tier for me, since it's not a permanent weapon, and the freeze effect is not like paralysis where you can just beat the fuck out of a helpless target. Speaking of assaulting the helpless, if you ever wanted to roleplay as Count Boncula, look no further than Volendrung. This beastly two-handed warhammer belongs to Malakath, the orcish god of curses and shit. I fucking love the way that you get this weapon. There's basically this guy that enslaved a bunch of ogres, and Malakath wants you to go set him loose. But what the quest doesn't tell you is that after you free them, if you happen to come back to that slaver's estate, you will find that the ogres came back there and enslaved their former slaver, which is fucked up but hilarious. The warhammer itself both drains health and paralyzes the target on every single hit, meaning your opponent is completely helpless as you bash their non-responsive body into a slow and painful death. Although not too slow, because the base damage is also very good. The thing that keeps it from being too OP is it runs out of charges pretty quick, but just get Azura Star or maybe carry a few soul gems with you at all times and you're good. This is possibly one of the most, if not the most, broken items in the game, but it's not getting S tier. Fuck you. Why? Aesthetics. Why the fuck is the handle so small? It looks like I'm two-handing a one-handed mace. This should be a massive bog hammer, not a fucking brick on a stick. It makes me feel sick in my It's just way too goofy looking. The handle looks like it's 3 inches, which is absolutely huge, but not big enough for a warhammer. That's why it's A tier.
Subscribe before I fucking do something you'll regret.
Umbra and the Mask of Clavicus Vile. The only instance in Oblivion of having to choose between 2 Daedric artifacts. The quest has you find the sword Umbra and return it to get the mask, but you can choose not to return it and keep it yourself, which I think is the better end of the deal, as Umbra is the highest base damage one-handed longsword in the game, and it has Soul Trap enchantment on it, so you don't have to cast the Soul Trap spell yourself, which is not very useful unless you're in early game. The great thing about this sword though, even though you need to be level 20 to start the quest to get this sword, you can still find the NPC that has it when you're level 1 right when you start the game. However, she's level 50 and very powerful, so you're gonna have to cheese her, which is possible, and you get the highest base damage one-hander at level 1. It's not even out of the way. I didn't even know about this and just happened upon her. I got Umbra immediately on my first playthrough, because I decided to explore the ruin that's just outside the main city, which is where she is. Then I couldn't kill her, and I was like, what, is she unkillable? And I was like, oh no, this is a level 50 NPC, you can't kill her. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was like, but you can cheese her. And I was like, oh. So yeah, I killed her, I got the sword. I'm kind of torn on whether I should put it in S. I kind of want to because it's cool, but despite its high base damage, its enchantment isn't that great, and it's out-damaged by weapons with lower base damage but better enchantments like Umbra. So I'm gonna put this at the highest A. Yeah, this is one of those tier lists where you put it matters here. I didn't think about that earlier, but I am thinking about it now. The mask, however, is pretty meh. First of all, you gotta sacrifice the sword to get it. It's a heavy helmet with no combat enchantments, just increases your personality related traits. Just like in Skyrim, you keep this thing in your inventory and equip it whenever you talk to vendors to get better prices. C tier. The Skull of Corruption. I put this bitch in F tier in my Skyrim tier list because it was fucking stupid, but here it's actually pretty great. It has the unique effect of making a copy of whoever you use it on, and they get attacked by themselves. You can only use it on one enemy at a time though. You can only make one copy at a time, and if your enemy has armor, the copy just appears naked with the same weapon. Okay, I don't think they're supposed to be naked. Maybe it's just a bug on my end. S tier. Why? Because the staff can literally complement any build. Whatever your build is, just add this staff to it and you've got your build plus a copy of your enemy. This staff is particularly good in combination with our next weapon, the Sanguine Rose, yet another staff. This one belongs to Sanguine, the Daedric lord of getting absolutely shit-faced and then committing war crimes. This staff, when used on an enemy, summons a random Daedra to attack them. Once again, usable only on one enemy at a time. However, summoned Daedra are still there for a couple of seconds after your target dies, and before they disappear, they attack you for those couple of seconds. Again, another instance of me not knowing if that's a bug or not. Yet another A tier. The reason I'm not putting it in S is because it's just a weaker version of the Skull of Corruption. The Daedra created by the Sanguine Rose count as summoned creatures, so they don't scale with the difficulty sliders. Whereas the summoned clone is as powerful as your enemy, meaning that this staff basically gets better and better at the higher difficulties. It scales perfectly in higher difficulties. That's why this one is S tier and this one is A. Mehrunes Razor. There's no shrine quest with this one since Dagon is the last boss of the game. I guess it doesn't make sense for you to do a quest for your arch enemy. Unlike most of the other Daedric artifacts that are given to you by their Daedric lords for doing them a favor, with the case of Mehrunes Razor, basically steal it from him.
Yoink.
You get his dagger with a special quest, and might I say, a pretty cool one at that. I like it when it feels like I had to embark on an epic adventure to get a spooky dark artifact. You're uncovering all this lore and all these secrets as you're doing it, as you're finding the quest. It's fucking awesome. Its enchantment in Oblivion is actually better than its Skyrim counterpart. It still has the same 2% chance to one-shot anything, but if you max out your luck stat, you can get it all the way up to 6%, so you're 3 times as likely to get the one-shots. And on top of that, it has another effect where it reduces enemy armor on hit. However, unlike its Skyrim counterpart, it does need to be recharged with soul gems, and it runs out pretty quick, so by the time you do get a one-shot, you would have spent like 2 soul gems. At least that's what it was like for me. I know I put the Skyrim version in S tier, but this is going in B. I really don't like how much I have to recharge this thing. Maybe that's a stupid pet peeve, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like being out of charges and then spending a couple of soul gems and then running out of charges and then spending a bunch of soul gems again to recharge it and then running out of charges again, and I still haven't gotten a single one-shot. Which, let's be real, that's why you're using this dagger. The one-shot, not the armor reduction. You want one-shot. The Savior's Hide is a great piece of light armor with a solid chunk of magic resist, which lands it in B tier. The reason for that is if you're good at enchanting, you can outcraft this item by giving the same 25% magic resist to a glass chestplate or something that is also light armor but has a higher armor rating. It's great in early game. Late game, you can basically craft a better version of it. The Grey Cowl of Nocturnal is one of the coolest artifacts in the game. It's what it does is, whenever you equip it, everyone in the game thinks that you are the Grey Fox, basically a vigilante thief. The Grey Fox is wanted everywhere, and you can't pay off his bounties or spend time in jail to remove those bounties. So you're basically always wanted, but any crimes that you commit as the Grey Fox don't count once you take off the Grey Cowl. You just go somewhere, hide, take off the cowl, and it's back to your everyday life. It basically allows you to steal, kill, punch children, do whatever you want without consequence. It's categorized as a clothing item though, and not as a helmet, so it does not have any armor value, but it more than makes up for it by increasing your sneak skill by a whopping 25 as well when you wear it, and it puts the feather effect on you, which increases your carry weight pretty dramatically. And that's convenient for playing a thief. When you're running around yoinking shit, you want as much carry weight as possible. And it also gives you Detect Life, which allows you to see enemies through walls. When you're sneaking around, that's particularly useful because you know when somebody's patrolling around the corner. Easiest S tier of my life. I'm actually gonna put it in front of Goldbrand as well. The Mace of Molak Ball is a good damaging mace. It absorbs 5 points of magicka, which is not much, and it absorbs your enemy's strength, reducing their strength each time you hit them and increasing yours. The problem with that is strength caps out at 100. If you use items to get it over the cap, you still benefit from strength's other effects like the small increases to your health and your carry weight a little bit, but the weapon damage increase, which is the main aspect of strength, does not affect you, so it only reduces your enemy's strength, meaning doesn't scale that great at high level. Because if strength is your main stat, you're gonna be able to max that shit out pretty quickly. I'm gonna put it in B tier. Namira's Ring, pretty solid, deals 12% of the physical damage and 10% of the magic damage that enemies deal to you back to them, which since it's percentage base, it does scale good at higher difficulties, but when you're at higher difficulties, you would be avoiding taking damage anyway. So I'm gonna put it in C tier because there's better rings you can get. There's better ways that you can enchant rings if you want to be as powerful as possible. The Ring of the Khajiit. This ring belongs to Meridia. You know, the beacon lady that gives you a big flaming holy sword in Skyrim. And here, she gives you a stealth sneaky thief ring. I don't know the lore behind this item, and I'm not gonna bother to research it for this video because I think that's funnier. I also don't know why it makes sense for the goddess of divine retribution to give you a quest to kill a bunch of necromancers, and then as a reward, instead of like a holy undead killing item, you get a stealth sneaky ring. I don't know. This ring increases your character's speed by 10 points, which is solid, and it gives you the chameleon effect, 35% chameleon effect, which basically makes it harder for enemies to see you when you're sneaking, but it's not complete invisibility. The way I understand it is if you were to hypothetically have 100% chameleon effect, that's like invisibility, what this ring gives you is 35%. Basically, when you're sneaking around in this game, you can get caught if you're sneaking in front of your enemies, but this ring allows you to do that at lower levels, because enemies won't see you even if you're in front of them if you're not too close. At higher levels of sneaking though, you can just sneak in front of enemies fine anyway. You're practically invisible once your sneaking level is really high. So this ring kind of becomes useless later on, but at low levels it's pretty nice, pretty convenient, especially if you're doing some quest lines that require you to be a sneaky pacifist like the Thieves Guild, which is what I did. I didn't have to grind out my sneak. I just hadn't got this ring and it made everything so much easier when I was in those earlier levels. B tier. The Skeleton Key, another artifact by Nocturnal. It's an unbreakable lockpick. Same thing as Skyrim, only in Oblivion, lockpicking is a lot more annoying because it takes more time. And it also feels like there's a lot more locked doors and containers in this game. It feels like almost no door is unlocked. You're going through a dungeon, you want to progress to the next part of the dungeon, pick the lock first. Everything is locked. Lockpicking in Oblivion interrupts the gameplay pretty frequently. I don't don't mind the lockpicking minigame in particular, it just shows up way too often. Oblivion does, however, have an auto attempt option where you just push a button once and you have a percentage chance to succeed instantly based on your security skill. But if you fail, then your lockpick breaks and you lose the lockpick, which is the reason why you wouldn't use auto attempt. The skeleton key, being an unbreakable lockpick, basically allows you to spam the auto attempt button until you eventually succeed, effectively removing or greatly shortening the lockpicking process in this game. A tier. Spellbreaker. This shield has the same armor value as a dwarven shield, and it has the unique enchantment of reflecting 30% of the spell damage done to you. There's a few things about this that are interesting. You've got a shield to block physical attacks, and the magic damage that you take is dealt back to the enemies in a pretty significant chunk. If you try to enchant this effect on a better shield, however, you can't do it, because if you use a soul gem, the maximum amount you can get is 10%, and if you use a sigil stone, you can get it all the way up to 20%, but a whopping 30% like Spellbreaker is not something that can be enchanted by the player. I'm gonna put it just below Umbra in A tier. The Wabbajack! The signature artifact of my boy here, the Wabbajack, has the fitting chaotic effect of turning creatures into other creatures. You may turn a troll you are fighting into a Minotaur Lord, which is stronger, or you might turn it into a goat. The way it works is it transforms the target for a few seconds, and if you fail to kill the troll while it's still a goat, it turns back into a troll, and it's back to full health. I'm using trolls as an example here. Of course, this doesn't just work on trolls, but it only works on creatures, not people. Using trolls as an example again, if you're hypothetically fighting a pack of trolls, trolls attack goats. You turn one of those trolls into a goat, and the other trolls will attack it. It behaves the same way as it would normally. I'm gonna put it at a low S tier and not at the top of S tier like I did in Skyrim, since this version only works on creatures and you can't turn people into sweet rolls and eat them, you can't turn people into money and spend them, and you can't turn Nazim into a pair of boots and wear him. Skyrim has raised my Wabbajack standards to a pretty high level. Alright, I like how this tier list is looking. I had a lot of stuff put in E tier and a bunch of stuff in F tier for the Skyrim tier list. We had absolute dog shit like the Skyrim version of the Skull of Corruption or the Roof of Lax that I put in F tier, but Oblivion doesn't have any Daedric artifacts that I would say are just straight up bad, which is good. The Sword of Jiggelag. It's an awesome sword, and like Umbra, it has the highest base damage, but instead of for a one-hander, it's the highest damaging two-handed sword in the game. But unlike Umbra, it does not have an enchantment on it, meaning that you can enchant it with whatever you want. Fire damage, paralysis, drain life, whatever you want. So for that, highest damaging sword in the game can be potentially enchanted with something really powerful. For that, I'm going to put it in S tier because this is probably the best two-hander in the game. Also, it belongs to Jiggelag, and Jiggelag is the Daedric god that eventually turned into my boy. It's going to get special treatment. It is what it is. Behind the Grey Cowl, though, because the coolness of this thing is unmatched. Staff of the Everscamp. Sheogorath, again, he has a lot of artifacts, okay? Yet another item, like the fork, that is designed purely to fuck with you. But this one is much more evil. Once you receive the staff in your inventory, 4 annoying scams get summoned and follow you around, and they are immortal. You can't kill them, you can't get away from them, and they stay with you as long as you have the staff not equipped in your inventory, and you can't get the staff out of your inventory. You can't drop it, sell it, give it away, store it, whatever. You can't do any of that. You have no choice but to be followed around by those annoying little shits until you complete the quest, and then the staff can be removed from your inventory. S tier, my boy's hilarious. And of course, how can we end a tier list video without yet another Daedric artifact by my boy? Ruin's Edge. We actually get a bow for one. I usually use swords in magic and fantasy games, and I almost never play bow classes, but this one hits different. Ruin's Edge. Whoever you shoot with this bow gets trapped in a never-ending state of eternal edging. It has a pretty high base damage, not the best, but one of the higher ones. Pretty good, still pretty good. And its enchantment is it creates a random spell effect on every hit, every time you shoot with it, behaving similarly to the way that the Wabbajack works in Skyrim, but unlike the Wabbajack, you can't end up healing your target, turning them invincible, buffing them, or turning them into a more powerful monster than they already are. This bow only applies negative effects to enemies, which is awesome, right? Extra elemental damage, fear, silence, paralysis, demoralize, stuff like that. And look at what it looks like. It is the best looking weapon in the game. The eye fucking blinks and moves around. It's my favorite Daedric artifact in Oblivion. Top S tier, number 1 S tier, best weapon, fuck you. It's a bow. I wish there were more bow Daedric artifacts with like unique effects in this game, because I feel like there's a lot you can do with them. But there's only one in Oblivion, and it's not even certain if it's even a Daedric artifact. It's kind of associated to Sheogorath. It is probably Sheogorath's artifact, because if we've learned anything in this tier list is that he loves making Daedric artifacts more than all the other Daedra, I guess just to cause more chaos. But the one Daedric artifact that we have that is a ranged weapon is a bow, and it belongs to Sheogorath, which, you know, has a... It's powerful because it only causes random negative effect, but it's still goofy because it's random. The only bow Daedric artifact in the game is a chaotic Sheogorath weapon, which I kind of wish wasn't the case. I wish there were more bows or crossbows or fucking ninja stars or whatever Daedric artifacts in the game. In Oblivion, you just have this one, and in Skyrim, there's 0 bows. Ranged weapon Daedric artifact. That's it for today. Oh, what? You want more? Can't get enough of the bebop? I also ranked all the Daedric artifacts in Skyrim. Click here to watch that.
So, there's this thing on YouTube in my YouTube analytics where it shows me that you dumb but very sexy motherfuckers are more likely to click if a video is 20 minutes. You see the little timestamp, and if it's 20 minutes or more, you guys are more likely to click. And it's not 20 minutes, so this is just, you know, making it be 20 minutes.